All right, everyone. Other big news of the day is that the pro-Second Amendment rallies, the pro-freedom, the pro-American reality rallies in Virginia went off without a hitch. Thousands of people showed up. They even picked up their own trash. Even Antifa, for once, shows up and actually doesn't, start cracking skulls or beating old people in the back of the head with bike locks. An interesting group of people, because Antifa and the Black Panthers show up alongside, like 76 style militias. Very interesting. By the way, the number of people that are angered by this is appalling. It appears to be most of the legacy media. Let me tell you something, though. I don't think the legacy media hopes for violence in these events directly for political reasons so much as it makes good news. Bad news is good news when you're CNN because, they clickbait, so they get more money if things go horribly wrong. I think they were expecting as well. Here's my assumption. I think they moved a lot of assets into the area for live coverage and then realized that things were calm. They realized that people that go to the range on a regular basis, and many of which are veterans, by the way, which a lot of people are ignoring, they have the discipline involved to not randomly shoot people. And this is actually really great. It was funny because the fact that there was no violence there means that the only recourse that some of these lowburls had was to ramble about the fact that they look like a bunch of G.I. Joes and they just look intimidating, and it was very ineffectual and stupid. And then they defaulted to, well, if you want to be a militia, join the military. And then you have to explain that in the 1700s, they would have used the term regulars if they were talking about a military. Trust me, having an above-average grasp of antiquated English, it really makes it difficult to talk to these people because trying to explain it to them is like, it's like fucking go take a college course, I suppose. But these people, someone with women's studies degree is going to lecture me on the finer points of mid-1700s philosophy. It's just not going to happen. You'll be there all day. It's not going to work because they're too dumb. They don't understand what they're talking about. It's funny because the dumbasses are the ones that speak the loudest too. Like there was this one, I'm not going to mention names, although you can probably find the conversation if you know how to use Twitter. One person on one of these posts that I was commenting on, rambling into literally into today, still commenting about the same fucking issue on the same fucking thread. Even after being told over and over, you're wrong, here's the reality, literally ignores the fact that she's been told about the error of what she's saying in order to fixate on new subjects. And it's very funny because it's like she keeps moving from issue to issue. It's like obviously a shill at this point, but in order to be anti-gun, you have to be a little bit of a shill. Either that or you have to be, I don't know, just a coward. You just don't understand guns, I suppose. Go and get one and fire it. It's as simple as that. Purchase a firearm. Just get a .22. Get something that's small. It's not going to hit you in the head if you fire it. Learn about firearm safety. Look, you can look up YouTube videos about firearm safety. You can look up the basics on there, and then you can go to the range, get the instructor there, say, I've never fired a gun before. Here's my little .22, and I feel really unsafe because I drink too much soy. Turn me into a man. Fucking do that. Why don't you deal with it? Instead of trying to rain on other people's parade. Yes, firing guns can actually just be fun. It's called plinking. It's like, you play a video game. You play some video game where you're target shooting or something. How is that any different other than the fact that you actually get to feel the gun kick and hear the boom and stuff? It's pretty great. You don't have to have a hand cannon. Here's my 50 caliber pistol. You don't need that. Just, again, get a .22. Something chambered in .380 or whatever. But, come on. It's funny because I was told that these rallies were full of white supremacists, and then the Black Panthers and Antifa showed up, and I'm like, It doesn't seem to have worked very well for their bombing. Why do you think this morning they're not really reporting on it? If anything had gone wrong, let's say that one person had been arrested. That person would be on front page news right now as evidence of how violent and evil gun owners were, how this proves the Virginian government's point, and how everything is terrible, and instead it devolved into leftists being literally racist and saying, look at the field of white men there. Oh, guns are colonial. And then I had to point out to them that gun control in the United States did not exist until the 1870s with the Cruikshank decision, in which Southern Democrat fucking Klansmen were arguing to a federal court that the Second Amendment only involved the ownership of arms in a collective a privilege sense, that is, that it established the idea of militias which could be legislated on by the state. All U.S. gun control, and none of these people are aware of this, starts from segregationism. It starts from Jim Crow. It starts in the post-Civil War era when Southerners, Southern whites, which wanted to maintain the supremacy of their voting capabilities, wanted to be able to intimidate blacks without the risk of them shooting back at them. That's all that gun control's been about. It's about disarming the underprivileged. It's always been about this. It's still about that. They don't want to they're not arguing that some rich person shouldn't be able to have a licensed security guard with a gun. They're arguing that you shouldn't be able to have a gun. You in the working or middle or even upper middle class, you're not allowed to have a gun. It's funny because most of the gun crime is in inner city communities, disproportionately affecting minorities. And yet they don't have a problem with that. They just have a problem with some random farmer owning an AR-15. And all their legislation is aimed at the latter. It's not aimed at gang crime. It's not aimed at trying to take illegal weapons off the street or nail people who are just violent in general and would commit violence without a gun if guns were completely absent. They're not focused on that because the whole point of gun control is not to protect anyone. That's just the selling point. They say think of the children. Trust me, when a politician or an activist says think of the children, you should be thinking of just cold, hard, goddamn die-hard reasoning. Ignore the children for the moment. The reason why they're telling you to fixate on the children is because they don't have a logical argument behind their proposals. They want to use that tear-jerking imagery. It's no different than saying, please, donate to our relief fund, and they show you a bunch of pictures of crying Ethiopian starving orphans, despite the fact that those orphans are starving because of a larger governmental policy that won't be addressed by your charitable action. Because it makes you feel better about yourself. It tugs at your heartstrings, makes you feel guilty for the state of the world, and then you cough up some money. It's a strategy. Televangelists do this. Oh, by Lord, please send me your social security check for Jesus to be able to save more of the orphans' weenies. I mean, it's the same fucking shit. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's being a snake oil salesman, and that's what you see from the left on gun control. Same exact goddamn arguments as some greasy televangelist or some zonked out activist that goes over to Africa, probably carouses and snorts coke and rapes the orphans, but claims to be taking care of them. So that was a big thing back in the 90s, by the way, like the Save the Children sort of thing, and it was all over the place. Save the whales. Give us money so we can save the whales. Well, half these groups weren't saving the whales. A lot of these charities got busted for that sort of thing. They were just squandering the money. Oh, 10% of the money that you send goes to this orphan over here. You know, if 100 people donate, we'll be able to buy him a bicycle. No road for him to ride it on. We haven't built that yet, but, Coca-Cola's working on it. Gun control is stupid. Gun control, I mean, we've got common sense gun control. It's the Second Amendment. That's all we need. That's the point. By the way, when some people say, well, what about missiles and nukes and rocket launchers? Well, you get into a little bit of a thing here. The term well-regulated in the Second Amendment means well-ordered and able to function. In the 1700s, it didn't mean regulation as in government regulation. It meant it was regular, like a well-oiled machine, like clockwork, essentially. It's the illusion that would have been made, the similarity that they would have made was that your watch is well-regulated. You've oiled it up, it's fine-tuned, it's working properly, keeping proper time, not just ticking. It's functioning. It's able to function for a purpose, for its use. In order to have a well-regulated militia comprised of individuals who keep and bear arms, it's not collectives, it's only individuals who form collectives. An individual is not capable of utilizing or maintaining something like a missile or a rocket launcher, even absent any form of regulation, in order to defend their country. They wouldn't be capable of using it. The average person is not capable of fielding a missile platform, aiming the missile, keeping it fueled, making sure it doesn't blow up on the platform or in their face in transit. They're not capable of safeguarding it. They're not capable of making sure it works. They cannot therefore make it well regulated. As far as tanks, they can. It takes a lot of money, but it doesn't take an enormous amount of effort. No more than for any other more complex piece of farm machinery like a tractor or a combine harvester. Yes, tanks are fully legal for this reason. Yeah, you can import a tank. You can import a Soviet-era tank. You realize that, right? Costs a lot of money. You can drive it around on your property if you want. They're already legal. Machine gun, Tommy gun, Browning, something like that. Yeah, this should be legal. Absolutely. The fact that it has automatic fire doesn't mean the average individual component of the well-regulated militia can't field it properly. Yes, they can. It's not for hunting. It's not for home defense. It's for defense of nation against tyranny. All enemies, foreign and domestic. Literally a military weapon. Yeah, they should be able to have that. By the way, to the anti-gunners, they can for that reason. The only problem is that the government has decided to make it impossible to manufacture import, so it costs 10 grand or so. The tax stamp is cheap. It's $200. $200 and you can own your Tommy gun if you can find someone willing to sell one to you that operates. Good luck finding the proper magazine attachments and everything else you'll need to maintain it, but it is possible if you've got the money to sink into it for no reason. Yeah, you can have machine guns. A lot of rich people collect them. They have their fully functioning Tommy guns. Why should... But they should just bring back manufacturing and importation. By the way, eventually, by hook or by crook, I have every reason to believe over the next 10, 20 years they'll become legal again. I believe that. Because the Second Amendment is explicit. Yes, military-style weapons of that form are absolutely allowed under the Second Amendment. I don't understand why you can possibly make an argument that you can ban people from manufacturing arms that are otherwise legal or attachments that are otherwise legal. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But yeah. So there's a little bit about that. Yeah, the Virginia rallies went well. Actually, I was very worried that there would be violence. I attempted to dissuade people who follow my material from going for that reason. We had provocateurs that were arrested beforehand. Thankfully, there were no other provocateurs. It went off very well. And it made the point as well. It made the point that people can get together. They're law-abiding gun owners. They're telling the Virginian government they're not going to comply. They've got sheriffs and shit saying they're not going to bother complying. The legislation is DOA on the streets because nobody's going to follow it. Thank goodness. By the way, when Democrats say, like Elizabeth Warren the other day, she was like, well, Virginians voted in a government that wanted common sense gun control. No, they voted in, virulent bigotry, but we'll put that aside for a moment. Yeah, and then they're going to vote them back out, I believe. Because the thing is, their idea of common sense gun control, that the only proposal that was made that they supported was universal background checks. You're going 10 steps beyond that at the moment. Not going to happen. The people of Virginia, I believe, are going to force the Democrats back out of the state legislature come this election, which is good, by the way. You should never vote for the Democrats again until they get their ass in order. Until they can stop with the wedge issues and the blatantly anti-constitutional pandering, nobody should vote for the Democrats. Punish them. Force them to be a better party so that they'll be worth voting for. Because I can remember briefly when I was younger when they were. We're talking about the fucking Clinton era. The Republicans were stuck on Jesus, Jesus. They were too busy trying to make Jesus the vice president to do all the good shit Trump's doing. Now Trump has reformed the Republicans. He's made them into a better party. I hope the Dems follow suit, because until then, as far as I'm concerned, it's fundamentally a one-party system. There's only one party that appears to have a functioning mentality. That's, oddly enough, the GOP. Never would have believed it 20 years ago. That's about all. Peace out.